When the delivery truck pulled up to our house on the morning of my 25th birthday, carrying a small sealed wooden box that had been sent from the estate attorney's office of my recently deceased grandmother Evelyn Morrison, who had passed away just 3 months earlier after a long battle with Alzheimer's disease that had gradually stolen her memories and left our family wondering what secrets and stories had been lost forever with her fading mind, I expected to find some sentimental keepsake or family heirloom that she had wanted me to have as a birthday gift that would connect me to our family's history and her love for the granddaughter who had been her constant companion during the final years when her illness had made her increasingly dependent on family members for care and emotional support. The brass nameplate on the box read, "For Sarah Elizabeth Morrison, to be opened on her 25th birthday," in my grandmother's elegant handwriting, that I recognized from birthday cards and letters she had sent throughout my childhood, when her careful script had conveyed the warmth and wisdom that had made her such an important influence in my life during the formative years, when her guidance and unconditional love had helped shape my character and values in ways that had provided strength and confidence throughout my journey into adulthood. My father, David, who had been sitting at our kitchen table reading the morning newspaper while enjoying his usual breakfast of coffee and toast, looked up with casual interest when I mentioned the delivery, his expression initially showing the kind of mild curiosity that typically accompanied unexpected packages or mail deliveries that might contain family news or business correspondence that required his attention as head of our household and family patriarch. However, when I read the nameplate aloud and explained that the box had come from Grandmother Evelyn's attorney, with specific instructions that it should be delivered on my 25th birthday, his face immediately changed from casual interest to something approaching alarm and anxiety that seemed completely disproportionate to the arrival of what appeared to be a simple birthday gift from a beloved grandmother who had wanted to commemorate this milestone birthday with something special and meaningful that would express her love and provide lasting memories of our relationship. What I discovered when I opened that sealed box would not only reveal devastating truths about my identity and parentage that had been hidden from me throughout my entire life, but would also expose a web of lies, cover-ups, and family secrets that had been carefully maintained for over 2 decades to protect people I loved from consequences and revelations that would fundamentally change our understanding of family relationships and the bonds that had seemed unbreakable despite the complex emotions and hidden truths that had shaped every interaction and milestone we had shared together as what I had believed was a normal and loving family unit, built on trust and mutual affection, rather than deception, and carefully orchestrated concealment of facts that could have destroyed everything I thought I knew about myself and my place in the world. The sealed wooden box that had arrived with such mysterious timing and specific instructions was beautifully crafted from dark mahogany with brass corners and hinges that suggested both the value of its contents and the importance that my grandmother had placed on ensuring that whatever was inside would be preserved and protected, until the exact moment when she had determined I would be ready to receive and understand the information or items that she had chosen to share with me through this carefully planned posthumous delivery. The weight and size of the box indicated that it contained more than just documents or photographs, suggesting that there might be jewelry, letters, or other personal items that had been significant to my grandmother, and that she had wanted to pass down to me as inheritance and remembrance of our special relationship that had been one of the most important and stable connections in my life since early childhood, when she had served as both confidant and mentor during times when I had needed guidance and support that went beyond what my parents were able or willing to provide. The sealing wax that had been used to secure the box bore my grandmother's personal seal, a delicate flower design that had been passed down through generations of women in our family, and that she had used for important documents and correspondence throughout her adult life, when formal communication and legal documentation required the kind of authentication and security that would prevent tampering or unauthorized access to sensitive information that might affect family relationships or business matters that required confidentiality and discretion. The care and attention that had obviously been invested in preparing this birthday gift suggested that its contents were far more significant than typical inheritance items or sentimental keepsakes, indicating that my grandmother had been planning this revelation for some time and had wanted to ensure that the timing and circumstances would be appropriate for sharing whatever information or materials she had decided I needed to know or possess. My birthday celebration that morning had been planned as a simple family gathering with my parents and younger brother Michael, who had taken the day off from his job at the local bank to spend time together and mark this milestone birthday that represented my transition into full adulthood and independence, with increased responsibilities and opportunities that would shape my future personal and professional development. The breakfast table had been set with our family's best china and decorated with flowers from my mother's garden, creating the kind of warm and intimate atmosphere that had characterized our family celebrations throughout my childhood and adolescence, when birthdays were treated as special occasions that deserved attention and recognition for the growth and achievements that each year represented in our individual journeys toward maturity and success. The presents that my family had already given me that morning included practical gifts that reflected their understanding of my current needs and interests as a young professional woman who had recently started her career as a graphic designer at a marketing firm in the city, where I was building a reputation for creativity and reliability that would provide the foundation for future advancement and career success. My mother had given me a beautiful leather portfolio for carrying my design work and client presentations, while my father had contributed a substantial check that would help me save for the down payment on my first apartment and establish the financial independence that he believed was essential for young adults who wanted to build stable and successful lives without relying on family support indefinitely. The atmosphere in our kitchen that had been so cheerful and celebratory just moments before became increasingly tense and uncomfortable as my father watched me examine the sealed box and prepare to open it according to my grandmother's instructions, his obvious anxiety and nervousness creating a sense of foreboding that seemed completely inappropriate for what should have been a joyful family moment, celebrating my birthday and my grandmother's thoughtful gesture of providing a special gift that would honor our relationship and mark this important milestone in my life. The way my father kept glancing at my mother with expressions that seemed to communicate urgent concern and the need for some kind of coordinated response to whatever was about to happen suggested that both of my parents had knowledge about the contents of the box, or at least understood that its arrival represented a threat to family harmony and the carefully maintained relationships that had defined our household dynamics for as long as I could remember. The moment when I finally broke the wax seal and opened the mahogany box was met with complete silence from my family members, who seemed frozen in anticipation of whatever revelation or discovery was about to unfold, despite the fact that they had been celebrating and laughing together just minutes earlier, when the morning had seemed full of happiness and optimism about my future prospects and the love and support that surrounded me as I entered this new phase of my adult life with confidence and excitement about the opportunities and challenges that lay ahead. The contents of the box were far more complex and shocking than anything I could have imagined, beginning with a letter in my grandmother's handwriting that explained her decision to wait until my 25th birthday to reveal information that she believed I deserved to know, but that had been kept secret to protect me from painful truths and family complications that might have been too difficult for a child or teenager to understand and process without causing emotional damage or disrupting the stability and security that had been essential for my healthy development and successful transition into adulthood. The letter apologized for the deception that had been necessary to maintain family harmony, while also expressing her love for me, and her confidence that I was now mature enough to handle the truth about my origins and identity that would require considerable strength and wisdom to understand and integrate into my understanding of myself and my relationships with family members who had participated in maintaining these secrets throughout my life. Beneath the letter was a manila folder containing documents that would change everything I thought I knew about my identity and family history, starting with a birth certificate that bore my name, but listed different parents than the ones who had raised me and who I had always believed were my biological mother and father, based on family stories, and the lack of any reason to question the obvious love and care that had characterized their treatment of me throughout my childhood and adolescence. When I had never doubted my place in our family or the authenticity of the relationships that had provided security and guidance during my formative years. The birth certificate that I stared at with growing confusion and disbelief listed my mother as Linda Morrison, my grandmother's daughter who had died in a car accident when I was just 6 months old, and my father as someone named James Crawford, a name that meant nothing to me, and that had never been mentioned in any family conversations or stories about our relatives and their histories that had shaped my understanding of our family tree and the people who were connected to us through blood, relationships and shared experiences that had influenced our values and traditions. The additional documents in the folder included adoption papers that had been filed shortly after my biological mother's death, formalizing the arrangement that had made David and Patricia Morrison my legal parents and guardians, while also sealing the records and establishing the legal framework that had enabled them to raise me as their own child, without any ongoing connection to my biological father or his family, who had apparently been deemed unsuitable or unwilling to provide the care and stability that a motherless infant would require for healthy development and future success. The medical records that had been included in the collection of documents revealed that my biological mother, Linda, had struggled with substance abuse problems and mental health issues throughout her teenage years and early adulthood, creating circumstances that had made her pregnancy and early motherhood extremely challenging and potentially dangerous for both herself and her infant daughter, who would need consistent care and emotional stability that she was unable to provide, given her ongoing battles with addiction and psychological problems that had interfered with her ability to function effectively as a parent or responsible adult. The correspondence between my grandmother and various social service agencies showed the complex negotiations and legal procedures that had been necessary to arrange my adoption, while ensuring that my biological father's parental rights were terminated, and that there would be no future complications or interference from him or his family members, who might have had different ideas about my care and upbringing that could have created conflict or instability that would have been harmful to my development and well-being during the critical early years, when consistency and security were essential for building the trust and attachment that would provide the foundation for healthy relationships throughout my life. The photographs that had been carefully preserved in the bottom of the box showed my biological mother, Linda, as a young woman who bore a striking resemblance to me, with the same dark hair and green eyes that I had always assumed I had inherited from my adoptive mother, Patricia, but that now revealed their true genetic origins and helped explain certain physical characteristics and personality traits that had never quite aligned with those of the people I had believed were my biological parents, based on family stories and assumptions that had never been questioned or investigated. The diary entries that my grandmother had included from Linda's final months showed a young woman who was struggling with overwhelming challenges and responsibilities, while also expressing deep love for her daughter and desperate hope that the adoption arrangement would provide opportunities and stability that she was unable to offer due to her own limitations and the dangerous circumstances that had characterized her life during the period when she was trying to overcome addiction and mental health problems that had made normal functioning and responsible parenting virtually impossible. The financial records that documented the adoption process revealed that my biological father, James Crawford, had been contacted about his daughter's situation and had been given opportunities to assume custody and parental responsibilities, but had refused all contact and had formally relinquished his parental rights without ever meeting me or showing any interest in my welfare or future prospects that would be determined by the decisions made by adults who were better equipped to provide the care and guidance that a young child would need to thrive and develop into a healthy and successful adult. The legal documentation that had been necessary to complete the adoption and establish my new identity had involved changing my name from Linda Crawford to Sarah Morrison, while also creating new birth records and documentation that would support the fiction that David and Patricia Morrison were my biological parents, rather than adoptive guardians who had taken responsibility for raising a child who was actually their niece and granddaughter, through family connections that had made the adoption a natural and loving solution to a tragic situation that had required adult intervention and sacrifice to ensure the best possible outcome for everyone involved. The revelation that David Morrison, the man I had always known as my father, was actually my uncle, and that Patricia Morrison was not related to me by blood, but had chosen to accept me as her own daughter, despite having no biological connection or obligation to care for a child who belonged to her husband's family, created a complex mix of emotions, including gratitude for their generosity and love alongside confusion and hurt about the deception that had been maintained throughout my life. Even when I was old enough to understand and process the truth about my origins and family relationships, the moment when my father's face went pale as he realized that I was reading the documents that revealed the truth about my parentage and adoption was a clear indication that he had been dreading this day and anticipating the difficult conversations and emotional turmoil that would inevitably result from my discovery of information that had been hidden to protect both my feelings and the family harmony that had been built on carefully maintained lies and selective disclosure of facts that might have complicated our relationships or created unnecessary pain and confusion during my childhood and adolescence. The conversation that followed my discovery of the truth about my adoption and biological parents was one of the most difficult and emotional discussions our family had ever experienced, involving explanations about the circumstances that had led to the adoption decision, revelations about the challenges and sacrifices that had been involved in raising me as their own child, an honest acknowledgement of the fear and uncertainty that had motivated their decision to hide the truth rather than finding age-appropriate ways to share information about my origins, and the love that had motivated their choice to provide me with the family stability and security that my biological mother had been unable to offer. The impact of learning that my entire understanding of my identity and family relationships had been based on well-intentioned lies was overwhelming and required extensive time and emotional processing To understand how this new information would affect my sense of self and my relationships with the people who had raised me with genuine love and commitment, despite the complicated circumstances that had brought us together as a family unit that was based more on choice and dedication than on biological connections and genetic inheritance that I had always assumed were the foundation of our bonds and mutual affection. The relationship with my adoptive parents required careful rebuilding and renegotiation as we worked to establish new foundations of trust and honesty that would acknowledge both the love and dedication they had shown throughout my childhood and the hurt and confusion that resulted from their decision to maintain such fundamental deceptions about my identity and origins, rather than finding ways to share the truth that would have allowed me to understand and appreciate the full complexity of the relationships and circumstances that had shaped my life and opportunities. The decision to search for information about my biological father, James Crawford, was motivated by curiosity about my genetic heritage and desire to understand the circumstances that had led to his abandonment of parental responsibilities and his apparent lack of interest in his daughter's welfare and development during the years when she was growing up without any knowledge of his identity or existence. The investigation that I conducted revealed that he had continued to struggle with addiction and legal problems throughout the years since my birth, confirming that his absence from my life had actually been a blessing that had protected me from instability and negative influences that could have interfered with my healthy development and future success. The legal procedures that were necessary to access sealed adoption records and obtain complete information about my biological parents and the circumstances surrounding my adoption required patience and persistence as I navigated bureaucratic systems that were designed to protect privacy and confidentiality, while also ensuring that adopted individuals who reached adulthood would have access to information about their origins and heritage that might be important for medical, psychological, or personal reasons that justified disclosure of previously protected information. The medical history that became available through my investigation into my biological parents provided important information about genetic predispositions and hereditary health conditions that had been unavailable throughout my childhood and adolescence when medical providers had been making treatment decisions based on incomplete family history that did not include relevant information about biological relatives, whose medical conditions and genetic characteristics might have influenced my own. Health risks and medical care requirements. The emotional healing that was necessary to process the complex feelings of gratitude, betrayal, love, and confusion that resulted from learning the truth about my adoption required professional counseling and family therapy that helped all of us understand how to rebuild relationships based on honesty and mutual respect, rather than the protective deceptions that had characterized our family dynamics for over 2 decades, while also acknowledging the genuine love and commitment that had motivated the choices and sacrifices that had shaped our shared history. Today, 5 years after opening that sealed wooden box on my 25th birthday and discovering the birth certificate that revealed the truth about my adoption and caused my father to go pale with fear about the consequences of his family's long-kept secrets, I have developed a deeper appreciation for the complexity of love and family relationships that transcend biological connections and are built instead on choices, commitment, and the willingness to make sacrifices for people we care about, regardless of genetic relationships or social expectations about what constitutes a real family. The relationship with my adoptive parents has been strengthened through our shared commitment to honesty and open communication that acknowledges both the pain caused by their deception and the love and dedication they demonstrated throughout my childhood when they provided stability, guidance, and opportunities that enabled me to develop into a confident and successful adult who was equipped to handle the truth about her origins and appreciate the complex motivations that had guided the adult decisions that had shaped her life and future prospects. The lesson that emerged from this experience is that family relationships are built on more than biological connections, and that the people who choose to love and support us through years of daily care and guidance deserve recognition and appreciation for their commitment and sacrifice, regardless of genetic relationships or the circumstances that brought us together as a family unit that was based on love rather than accident of birth or social obligation that might have created resentment or limited emotional investment in our mutual welfare and development. Looking back on that moment when I opened my grandmother's final gift and discovered the birth certificate that revealed I was adopted, while my father went pale with shock and fear about the revelations that would change our family dynamics forever, I realized that the truth, while initially painful and disorienting, ultimately provided opportunities for deeper understanding and more authentic relationships that were based on choice and honesty, rather than the protective lies that had been intended to shield me from pain But that had actually prevented the kind of genuine intimacy and trust that can only exist when people know and accept each other completely. Was my adoptive family wrong to hide the truth about my adoption throughout my childhood and adolescence? Or were their protective instincts and desire to provide stability justified given the circumstances that had made the adoption necessary and the potential complications that might have resulted from earlier disclosure? Should adopted children have the right to know the truth about their origins from an early age, or is it appropriate for adoptive parents to wait until their children are mature enough to handle complex information about family relationships and the circumstances that led to their placement? Would you have made the same choice to search for information about biological parents whose absence had actually protected you from instability and negative influences? Or should some secrets remain buried to protect the family relationships that have provided love and support throughout your life? Sometimes the most important gifts come wrapped in pain and confusion that eventually lead to deeper understanding and stronger relationships when people have the courage to rebuild trust based on honesty rather than the comfortable lies that protect us from difficult truths, but prevent the authentic connections that can only exist when we know and accept each other completely, including the complex circumstances and imperfect choices that have shaped our shared history and individual development into the people we have become through love and commitment rather than accident or obligation.